The conceptions that are described as monotheistic are often found mixed with monistic ones, and it is difficult to separate them, but yet in particular passages, the one or the other view is seen to prevail. That is our justification for speaking of them as two tendencies. Of them, the monotheistic conception, regarded purely as such, is bound to involve dualism. What it aims at is only unity of Godhead, the reduction of the many gods to one who is above and apart from the world which he makes and guides. It regards nature as set over against God and can therefore satisfy the longing for unity only in a qualified sense. There is a higher conception of unity, which monism, which traces the whole of existence to a single source. It is fully worked out in the Upanishads, but it is foreshadowed more than once in the literature of the period we are now considering. There are in it at least two distinct sets of such monistic thought. To begin with, there is the pantheistic view, which identifies nature with God. One of its most notable expressions is found in a passage of the Rig Veda where goddess Aditi is identified with all gods and all men, with the sky and air, in fact, with whatever has been or whatever shall be. The central point of the pantheistic doctrine is to deny the difference between God and nature, which, as we have shown, is necessary implication of monotheism. God is conceived here not as transcending nature, but as immanent in it. The world does not proceed from God, but is itself God. Although the object of this view is to postulate unity, it retains somewhat inconsistently, as it seems, both the notions of God and nature, and so far fails to satisfy the mind in its search after true unity. Such a consideration may be regarded as having been at the root of another conception of unity, which we come across in the literature of the period. For example, in the Song of Creation, which has been extolled as containing the flower of Indian thought. It is in parts obscure and almost baffles translation. Yet there are several renderings of it into English, and the following metrical one by G. Moore is one of the best. Then there are neither Agnt or not, no air, nor sky beyond, what cover all, what rested all, it watery gulf profound, nor death was then, nor deathlessness, nor change of night and day, that one breathed calmly, self-sustained, not ills beyond it day, gloom hid in gloom existed first, one sea eluding view, that one a white in chaos wrapped by inward fervor, like this. In this hymn, which may be said to have passed over into world literature, we have the quintessence of monistic thought. Here the poet philosopher, recognizing, unlike the pantheist, the principle of causality, not only traces the whole universe to a single source, but also tackles the problem of what its nature may be. All opposites, like being and non-being, death and life, good and evil, are viewed as developing within and therefore as ultimately reconcilable. In this fundamental principle, in regard to the origin of the universe, we have here, instead of the view of creation by an external agency, the view that the sensible world is the spontaneous unfolding of the suprasensible first cause. The conception is wholly impersonal and free from all mythological elements. Even the theistic coloring discernible in pantheism is absent here. It is denoted in this song by two most cautiously chosen epithets, that one which suggests nothing beyond the positive and unitary character of ultimate principle. We are here on the threshold of Upnisadic monism. Yet another tendency has to be noted which may be comprehensively be described as Vedic free thinking, but it must be remembered that it does not form part of the teaching of the Veda. There are only allusions to it there which, though occasional, are quite clear, though that indulge in it are denounced as hearts of the Vedas, maligners of God, men of no principle. That such heterodox views were not unknown in ancient India may also be gathered from the tradition of Jainism. It reckons several prophets who preceded Mahavir, of them at least one, and this tendency manifests itself sometimes as doubts and sometimes as disbelief, but under whatever form it may appear, it sets itself against the orthodox teaching of the Veda. There is a whole hymn in the Rig Veda addressed to faith which concludes with the prayer, O faith, make us the conservation of the culture for which it stands. It also includes the practice of virtues like adherence to truth, self-restraint and kindness to fellow beings. Benevolence to neighbor and friend is particularly placed and censored in the Rig Veda, which for instance states, he that eats by himself will keep his sin to himself. The tendency to asceticism also appears in the period, the Rig Veda alluding to the Muni with long hair and colored garments. We have already considered the place of morality in the earlier part of the period. As regards the latter, some are of opinion that the excessive importance attached to the sacrifice in it led to a neglect of ethical ideas and gave rise to the practice of judging goodness by the standard of ritualistic correctness. But in view of the fact to which attention has been drawn that ritualism was only one of the lines of development of early Vedic thought, it would be more correct to hold that though in circles where the sacrifice was dominant, it might have caused some confusion between ethical and ritualistic values. The idea of morality itself did not disappear. Thus, Prajapati, the principal deity of the Brahmana period, is represented not merely as the Lord of creation, but also as an ethical authority, reminding us of the still earlier view that the gods were responsible for upholding moral as well as cosmic order. This ancient belief is more than a system of rewards and punishments on the side of death. Both the pious and the impious are believed to be born in another world, but except perhaps in a single passage in a Brahmana, there is no allusion to transmigration. The reward of virtue and piety is enjoyment of happiness in heaven in the company of the gods. Later, this blessed existence is represented as being led in the company of the virtuous dead and under the control of Yam, who appears as the ruler of heaven and not yet of the dread abode of hell. The punishment for sin and vice is eternal damnation. The reference to hell is not explicit in the Rig Veda, but is clear in the Atharvaveda and the Brahmanas. It is described as a place of eternal darkness below, in contrast to heaven, which is one of the light above, and those that go there, it is stated, can never escape from it. All this points to a belief in the immortality of the soul. Death does not mean destruction, but only the continuance of existence elsewhere, where happiness or misery results according to one's deserts.